the errors are so weird. And I know she's 80. I don't care. She's got an entire, do you know how many people must have worked on that book besides just her and her co-writer, editors, proofreaders, lawyers? And yet,
Hmm.
and I'm hearing from the Elvis people, the people that really know the Elvis side of it, saying she has a lot of strange errors, and she's completely misremembered some things in some other areas as well. But so now Priscilla was coming out with a memoir, not her first, and so I grabbed a copy and again read it for the Scientology mentions. There's a lot of other stuff in there, obviously, if you're interested in things, but I just wanted to see what she had said about Scientology. And I was just, if Lisa's book surprised me that it was seemed so watered down. What surprised me about Priscilla's book is she just gets so many things wrong. I mean, just flat out wrong. I don't know if there was no fact checking on this book or, how this book was put together. It's like, for example, when she first talks about how she got into Scientology, she mentioned it was right after Elvis had died. She and Elvis had divorced in 73. Elvis died in August 77. And then, yeah, right after that, Priscilla got into Scientology. And she said what happened was that, John Travolta, she was searching and her friend was John Travolta. And John Travolta brought her down to the Hollywood Celebrity Center on Franklin, showed her around, showed her the classes, and she decided to give it a try. I read that and I was like, that's not what happened. It could not have happened because the Hollywood Celebrity Center was not on Franklin in 1977. The reason I know that is that I know what really happened. Spanky Taylor had joined the Sea Org in 71 John Travolta joined in 75. She was assigned to him. She became his handler, his communicator. I mean, she was completely all over his life and in making sure he stayed in Scientology. And then when Elvis died, Priscilla, even though they've been divorced for 4 years, she was still involved in going through his things, and she found these books of Scientology. Now, see, Elvis was famously a very esoteric reader. He was always into philosophical works, things like that. It's not surprising that he'd have some Scientology stuff, although while he was living, he'd expressed that he really thought Scientologists were too money hungry, didn't want anything to do with them. But it's not surprising that he would have some books. Priscilla was curious about them, and she did contact Travolta to ask him about them. Spanky says at that point, Travolta sent her down to meet with Priscilla, explain what was in the books, and to see if they couldn't get her into Scientology. Spanky still remembers the restaurant on Highland Avenue where she first met Priscilla in 1977, and then took her to the Hollywood Celebrity Center, which was on La Brea. It hadn't moved to the Manor yet. Scientology had owned the Manor since 1973, and if you remember, during the Snow White raid in July 77, that was one of the places they searched because the Guardian's office guys were up on the 6th floor, right? So Scientology owned that building, but the Celebrity Center that Yvonne Jench had created was still on La Brea in 1977, and that's where Spanky took Priscilla. And, Spanky left a couple of years later, but she said she was the one that did all of the work with Priscilla when it came to Celebrity Center. It didn't involve John Travolta at all. So and it was interesting because 10 years ago when Going Clear came out, at that time, I think in 2015, I think there's no doubt Lisa, Priscilla, and Riley were all out of Scientology in 2015. It got back to Spanky that Priscilla had seen the movie and had told people that she had very fond memories of Spanky. That's just 10 years ago. I know Priscilla's 80 today. I don't think it's a memory issue. I think that there's some reason that Priscilla has erased Spanky from this story and doesn't want to tell what really happened. That's the first one. Then she talks about Scientology in general, and I got to tell you, she may claim that she's out, but this is the most glowing endorsement of Scientology I have seen in print in many years. Okay, boy, she's just picking and choosing with the details, but the details she chose are just, she makes it sound like this is a fantastic thing.
Yeah.
Then she talks about how, and she brought up Lisa in it. Lisa was, going to the Celebrity Center and Narconon, and that's how she met Danny Keough. They were actually married at the Celebrity Center. That marriage only lasted a few years, although Danny always remained in her life. In fact, he was the one that found her when she got sick. But then she married Michael Jackson in 1996. And of course, we were all kind of like, what's going on here? I can tell you that when I spoke to Lisa in 2015, she was adamant. She loved him. She said, Tony, I loved him. I know what people don't understand, but I love that man. And she said it was not her idea to divorce him. She said, she told me that David Miscavige was pressuring her to divorce Michael Jackson through an attorney, John P. Cole, who told her that when a couple divorces, whoever files first in court has a slight advantage. And they believed Michael was about to file. You need to beat him to it. And this is Lisa explaining this to me. She said he was constantly bugging me, and she finally said okay. And it was the divorce was filed. But she said I really didn't want to do that. Now in Priscilla's, and now in the memoir that Riley edited, um, she did say, Riley, in the section that Riley wrote, that she did say that her mother said somebody had told her it would be advantageous to file before Michael. But she just erased the name. She pulled back the name that it was John P. Cole. Now, I did speak to John P. Cole about this. He denies it. He said that, look, both Lisa and Michael had plenty of money. There was nothing to fight over. So why would I pressure her? So he denies that that happened. But I know that that's what Lisa told me. But in Priscilla's version, it's even more different than what Riley put out. In Priscilla's version, it was all Lisa's idea to divorce the guy. So I don't know. Even Riley's watered down version agrees with what Lisa told me, but Priscilla's telling a different story.